Chapter 17:06 Arashurnagi. The black chains that blocked the heaven and earth were directly shattered by Longzi's breath. Such a scene made the Hades gatekeeper in the sky look solemn. "Who are you?" he whispered, but his hand did not stop moving. He waved his right hand in the air, and a huge fishbone-like weapon was held in his hand. The Hades gatekeeper drew a line in the air, as if he was painting on a white paper. Zhang and others only saw a black mark in front of their eyes, and a thick trace was born directly from the void between him and Longzi. The Hades gatekeeper's ability is also space-based. Longzi did not make any movement, but the space in front of him quickly twisted. The scene Zhang and others saw was as if the world had been turned into a crumpled piece of drawing paper, and everything had lost its original appearance. The battle between the two had reached another dimension. Zhang could not imagine that the ability of a living being could reach this level. If it were in the eyes of ordinary people, this would be the realm of God. The Hades gatekeeper's attack had no effect. Longzi made a single move, and his huge double-edged sword appeared in his hand. What a hassle! His tone was full of impatience, but he disappeared in the next moment. Zhang barely caught his movement trajectory with the ability of tracing all things. When he chased Longzi's figure through the distorted space, or perhaps it was an illusion caused by the distorted light, he saw an arm falling from the sky. Longzi came in front of the gatekeeper of the underworld and chopped down with two swords without any fancy moves. One sword cut off the left arm of the gatekeeper of the underworld, and the other cut off his right arm. Zhang was stunned. He thought he would witness a thrilling battle with his own eyes, but he didn't expect that the battle between the top aliens would be so plain and simple. Longzi's speed didn't seem fast, but when he attacked, the gatekeeper of the underworld had no room to resist or dodge. Because Longzi's actions had blocked all his routes of action, and he knew all his possible counterattacks. If the gatekeeper of the underworld does not sacrifice his two arms, then he will have to leave his life behind. The gatekeeper of the underworld was stunned, and the mighty army of the Wulwan Empire behind him was also stunned. Boom! Thunder rolled in the sky. Zhang raised his head and saw thunder rolling in the sky like a fireball, as if it were a hot wheel. The eyes of the gatekeeper of the underworld were full of anger, and his body exuded endless black tides, but he was finally awakened by the sound of thunder and regained his consciousness. If he had just burst out with all his strength to fight with Longzi, he would definitely be wiped out by the rules of this world. And Longzi in front of him didn't seem to use his full strength to deal with him. The gatekeeper of the underworld immediately realized that the plan to invade this land had failed. He knew that there was more than one mysterious underground civilization in the Wulwan Empire in this world. But he didn't expect that there was such a powerful existence hidden underground in Huashu country. "Are you their angels?" The Hades gatekeeper flashed and retreated a long distance, and at the same time conveyed his thoughts in a way similar to space fluctuations. Longzi just looked at them with an extremely cold look. There was no response anymore, and the condescending attitude was just like the attitude of the Hades gatekeeper towards humans when he descended. Longzi put his right hand under his lips and blew gently at the alien army of the Wulwan Empire. Shichue Lan Nagi. This time, Zhang saw that there seemed to be an invisible energy in the air, which spread wildly in the shape of a trumpet towards the area in front. The Hades gatekeeper's face changed suddenly, and he dodged this large-scale attack almost without hesitation. But he could dodge, but the aliens of the Wulwan Empire behind him could not dodge at all. The silent fluctuations spread in the void, and they didn't even notice what was happening, and their bodies turned into dust and dissipated in the air. Zhang was shocked to see an incredible scene. The gatekeeper of Hades, who lost both arms, fled desperately towards the distance, the direction of the Star Island Mist Valley without looking back. This force finally swept his body, and the black armor on his body was shattered like dust and turned into powder. The gatekeeper of Hades seemed to be seriously injured, because Zhang vaguely saw blood dripping in the sky, but the cautious gatekeeper of Hades did not forget to burn it when he fled. He quickly disappeared into the sky. If you look at it from the satellite monitoring of various countries, you can see that he no longer cares about anything but goes straight into the mist of the Star Island Mist Valley. Bai Longzi's body fell to the ground, and his face was always indifferent, not taking anything into his eyes. Zhang Yi has experienced life and death today, and his mind is a little confused. He doesn't know what to say. It was Shang Dawen who supported Ho Tu and bowed to him from a distance to thank him. Angel, thank you for your blessing to Huashu country. Bai Longzi heard this and just turned his head indifferently. Zhang Yi clearly saw the barely concealed impatience and even disgust in his eyes when he faced him and others. He opened his mouth and said in a standard Mandarin tone with disgust, "We have already repaid the favor of bringing back the remains of our ancestors. From now on, don't bother us again." After saying this, he turned around and left without caring about the reactions of the crowd. Just a moment later, his figure disappeared in this world. Tianhai City was terribly quiet. Except for the people at the scene, there was nothing in Tianhai City. All the buildings left by human civilization were destroyed. Fortunately, Zhang Yi collected the shelter, and the important resources of Tianhai City were also in his alien space. It wouldn't take much effort to rebuild his Tianhai base. The others were still immersed in the shock of the battle just now, and Zhang Yi's mind also came back to its senses. It turned out that the reason why Bai Longzi was willing to help was because of the fossilized remains of the dragon clan that he brought back from Neon. Zhang Yi silently opened the dimensional door, and while the others didn't react, he collected the remains of the Black Bishop-level alien that they had mistaken for the gatekeeper of the underworld. This small action immediately attracted everyone's attention. Li Changgong pointed at Zhang Yi angrily. "Han Dun, be kind. You can't take it all for yourself." Ho Tu and others also looked at Zhang Yi, and the meaning in their eyes was self-evident. They almost died before they killed the Black Bishop with great difficulty, and it was impossible for Zhang Yi to get all the benefits. Chapter 17:07 How Can I Eat Alone? Zhang Yi saw that his little action was discovered, and said calmly, "Look at you, you are anxious again. When did I say that I would take it all for myself? I just saved it for everyone first. After the death of the alien, if the body is not quickly sealed, the origin in the body will slowly dissipate between heaven and earth." Although Zhang Yi is very tempted by the origin of the Black Bishop level, he is not so bad as to make enemies with everyone. He is a very principled person. In this battle, all the major regions of Huashu country, including other countries, have made great efforts. Zhang Yi is not stupid enough to do such a treacherous thing. Now that the war has just ended, I estimate that the damage to the major regions and the aliens of friendly countries is not small. It is better to take a good rest first. Don't worry, I will not take this origin all for myself. But what should be mine? I can't lose any of it. Zhang Yi said so in his heart. After all, the things are in his hands, and how to distribute them at that time still needs his approval. Although everyone rolled their eyes at Zhang Yi's attitude, it is indeed not the time to have conflicts. They were injured too badly. Alexei in particular was shocked by the attack of the Black Bishop. If he hadn't been strong, he would have collapsed long ago. Even after the injection of the drug, his body fell down like a hill in front of everyone's astonished eyes. Shang Dawen immediately said, "Chaos, send everyone to Blizzard City for treatment immediately." At this time, Tianjiexing Daixing had been stunned and could not teleport everyone, so he could only rely on Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi nodded, but he still released everyone in the shadow space first. After everyone landed, they saw that Tianhai City had become a desolate place, and their eyes showed inexplicable grief. In any case, this place carries too many of their memories. Unexpectedly, this battle completely wiped out the city. How could they not be hurt? Zhou Kuo did not feel sad, but ran to Zhang Yi as soon as possible and hurriedly attached her hands to his chest. Everything that happened just now they could actually see clearly in Mu Yan's shadow space. When Zhang Yi's chest was pierced by the chain of the Hades gatekeeper, Zhou Kuo's face turned pale with fear. She looked at Zhang Yi worriedly, and her hands continuously released the white supernatural power, using the power of Doctor to help him repair his body. Zhang Yi looked down at the wound on his chest at this time, and couldn't help but feel a little scared. At that time, even he was completely stunned by that blow. If the Hades gatekeeper had no other intentions towards him, but chose to kill him directly, then Zhang Yi would have been turned into powder like Zhong Yu. It turned out that the huge gap in strength could reach such a point. The escape into the void that could resist the impact of the god of death of love could not block the ability of a higher-level space-based alien. After this battle, Zhang Yi's heart had a little more awe for this world. Sure enough, this world is still too dangerous, and he has to be more stable in the future. At this time, everyone in the family gathered around him, looking at him with concern. "Brother, are you okay?" "Zhang Yi, I'm so sorry that I can't help you this time." Some of the people were distressed, some were concerned, and some were ashamed. Uncle Yu, a sturdy middle-aged man, lowered his head in shame. He quietly clenched his fists, his eyes full of unwillingness. After the end of the world, as time went by, the gap between their strength and Zhang Yi became larger and larger. Uncle Yu gradually felt powerless. He always wanted to catch up with Zhang Yi's footsteps, hoping that he could at least help a little. However, on the real battlefield, he was still the one who needed to be protected by Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi smiled lightly and said indifferently, "Everyone is like a screw, and they need to be in the right position to play their role. Don't feel sorry, just work hard in other places in the future." Not everyone around him is gifted. But so what? They are all Zhang Yi's partners along the way, who stipulates that only those with strong strength are qualified to stay by the protagonist of the story. Compared to those, what Zhang Yi needs more now is his family. Only Uncle Yu and other companions who have gone through difficult times can Zhang Yi trust. "Don't talk for now, wait for me to heal you." Zhou Ku'er pouted and muttered. The wound pierced Zhang Yi's chest, which looked extremely scary. But in fact, the combat uniform had automatically injected the medicine just now. It just looked scary, but it was not a big deal. Yang Xia also quickly took out the supernatural food. "Zhang, eat this rice ball. It can replenish your physical strength." Okay. Zhang Yi looked at the people who cared about him at this time, and a warm feeling rose in his heart. The sadness that was originally brought about by the destruction of Tianhai City also disappeared at this time. Yes, as long as they're still there, then Tianhai City is still there. The shelter was taken into the different space by him, and the entire Tianhai City, most of the strategic materials are also in his space. It only takes enough time and manpower to rebuild the previous appearance of Tianhai City, or even go further. Hey, big brother. Stop showing off your affection. Can you take care of the wounded here? Seeing Zhang Yi surrounded by a group of people, Li Changgong couldn't help but complain. Several of them are injured. Sorry. Zhang Yi's physical injuries were healed quickly. Among the several people, his injuries were the lightest. Zhang Yi asked Zhou Ku'er to give simple treatment to Alexei and others first. These people were seriously injured, and it would take too long for Zhou Ku'er to completely heal them alone. So it is better to send them all to Blizzard City and hand them over to a professional medical team. However, when it comes to Blizzard City, Fatty Sue came over and pouted at the side. Zhang Yi turned his head and saw the girl with long, thick black hair like seaweed standing motionless in the snow. She seemed to have no emotions. After completing the task, she was so alone and didn't say hello to anyone. But when they saw her familiar face, Fatty Sue and others were still subconsciously alert. After all, they were almost forced into a dead end by this woman. And the people of Tianhai City almost died because of her. There's nothing strange about it. I knew there would be such a day. Zhang Yi said lightly, not caring at all about Ji's appearance. He smiled at Fatty Sue and the others and said, "You have to allow Zhu Zheng to have his own trump card, right? But I don't know whether Zhu Zheng has a clear understanding in his heart who is the king and who is the little king." Chapter 1708. Just the beginning. Zhang Yi used his ability to gather all the injured from all around Tianhai City. He asked Zhou Ku'er and other medical aliens to give them simple treatment first. If the injuries were not serious, they would stay in Tianhai City first. the seriously injured people, as well as important figures from various regions and countries, were sent to Blizzard City to receive the highest level of medical care. On this day, Blizzard City was particularly lively. Zhang personally came forward to warmly entertain everyone and actively arrange the medical team. However, after arranging these, he came to see Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi, this time thanks to you, I will never forget your contribution to Huaxu country and Jiangnan region. Zhang said sincerely. Zhang Yi turned his head and looked at Zhang, smiling and said, "What's the matter? It's what I should do." But I didn't expect that Zhu Shui actually had a killer hidden, and it turns out that the old ginger is still spicy.
Zhang
Yi gave Zhang a thumbs up. Zhang smiled. He was also one of the biggest winners this time. He hid Zhu Yu's trump card, and then waited until the battles in various battlefields were almost over before letting Zhu Yu take action. In this way, he absorbed a large number of high-level aliens' origins and abilities. Zhu Yu was full in one breath, and now his strength has also been improved to a very high level. However, he would not be stupid enough to show off with Zhang Yi now. After all, he has seen the strength that Zhang Yi has shown. This time, Zhu Yu's harvest is not small, but Zhang Yi's harvest is even greater. The origin of the Black Bishop level is still in his hands. Hey, I have no choice. You know, Blizzard City has never had an Epsilon-level alien, which is not good for the safety of Blizzard City. We can't always trouble you. That's why I cultivated Zhu Yu. Zhang Yi, you should understand me, right? Zhang Yi sneered in his heart and smiled faintly on the surface. Of course, all this is Zhu Shui's freedom. I don't care. Because Zhang Yi himself has never believed that Zhang will be unreserved to him. Since the first day he met Zhu Yu, Zhang Yi thought that this day would come. But what can be done about it? When he was just a Delta-level alien in Tianhai City, he was able to kill the Epsilon-level Zhu Yu. What about now? By the way, does Zhu Yu have a code name? Zhang Yi asked casually. Zhang nodded with a smile. It has been decided. The code names of aliens in Jiangnan District are all based on you. Others cannot surpass it. So the code name we decided for Zhu Yu is Nu Ba. Zhang Yi heard this code name and narrowed his eyes slightly. Nu Ba? Han Ba. It is indeed a very suitable code name. Nu Ba is the daughter of Huang Di in mythology. After death, she was reborn as one of the ancestors of zombies. This coincides with Zhu Yu's identity. It's up to you. It's just a code name anyway. Zhang Yi waved his hand. At this time, he was too lazy to continue arguing with Zhang. After all, after the things here were over, he had to rush back to rebuild Tianhai City. In that battle, many people died in Tianhai City, and the entire Chaoyu base was dug out from the depths of the earth and thrown into the sea and submerged. Although the people in the other two districts received the notice and fled in time, the aftermath of the battle would probably kill many people. Now that the war is over, we need to regroup and call back those refugees. Zhang hurriedly said to Zhang Yi, "Oh, by the way, Tianhai City is now suffering from war, and I heard that it has suffered heavy losses. If you need assistance from the district, just ask." Zhang Yi thought for a while and said, "I have a big gap in materials and manpower." Zhang hurriedly said, "Don't worry about this. As long as you ask, the warehouse of Blizzard City will be open to you at any time. As for manpower, Blizzard City now has 1 million workers who are ready to be dispatched at any time. In the 3 years of the end of the world, Blizzard City can be said to be the safest city in the entire Huaxu Kingdom due to Zhang Yi's protection. The population here has grown to 5 million, and there are almost no idle people. Except for a small number of family members of senior officials, everyone else must work. There are as many as 1 million full-time soldiers, and the rest are technical workers and ordinary laborers." Zhang Yi nodded. "Wait for me to go back and estimate the losses of Tianhai City, and then come to you for people and supplies. By the way, have you thought about how to explain this to other regions?" Zhang Yi had a teasing smile on his face. Other regions were fighting to the death, but their Jiangnan region actually hid an Epsilon-level alien who jumped out to pick fruits at the critical moment of the battle. This kind of behavior, at the time of war, everyone could ignore it. But after the war, I'm afraid that all regions will not let Zhang go easily. Zhang frowned slightly, and a meaningful bitter smile appeared on his face. We will try our best to make up for all the losses. Zhang certainly knew that his behavior was not kind. But now, Zhu has become a great man. From now on, his Blizzard City will also have top combat power and will not need to look at the face of others, Zhang. Zhang could walk with his back straight. Thinking about the gains, it didn't seem to be a big deal to lose his character. Anyway, the matter was a foregone conclusion, and other regions had no other way. At most, they could use some resources to make up for it. Zhang returned to Tianhai City as soon as possible. His huge Tianhai City fortress had been put back to its original place, and it looked no different from the past. Zhang did not return home to see his family, who were waiting for him to return. Instead, he sat on the high dome of the fortress, looking at the vast ocean in the distance. The gatekeeper of the underworld escaped and was beaten badly by Longzi. The entire army of the Wulwan Empire was annihilated this time except for him. After this battle, the gatekeeper of the underworld would not have the courage to set foot in this place in a short time. Zhang heard the conversation between the two at that time. It can be clearly known that the underground civilization where the Wulwan Empire and Bai Longzi were located did not know each other's existence. This made him feel a little confused. They were all top-level underground civilizations. If they were all the overlords of the planet in ancient times, why didn't they know each other? And how many beings like them were there in this world? Where did they come from, and why did they have to hide underground? Zhang Yi's mind was very confused, and a bold guess slowly emerged in his mind. If even beings of the level of Bai Longzi and the gatekeeper of the underworld could not stay on the surface for a long time, did it mean that the real world-destroying disaster had not yet really arrived? Chapter 17:09 The Four Horsemen of Dawn. The Battle of Huashu Kingdom has come to an end. And this battle has also been seen by all the major transcendent forces in the world. This battle has refreshed everyone's worldview. The powerful strength shown by the gatekeeper of the underworld and by Longzi has put them in a huge sense of crisis. Even the world's top strength, when compared horizontally, will realize that their current strength is not enough to dominate this planet. Any single country or force cannot withstand the impact of the fully prepared alien troops of the Wulwan Empire. This time, if it weren't for Bai Longzi's action, no one in the entire Huashu Kingdom could stop the terrible gatekeeper of the underworld. No wonder, at the beginning of the battle, Jia shouted that this battle was a foregone conclusion and that humans had no hope of winning. Columbia, Franklin State, Vale District. In a huge laboratory, the lights were a little dim, and in front of the hundreds of screens suspended in the air were images of various places in the battlefield of Huashu Kingdom. An old man in a white coat stared with dead eyes, his eyeballs rolling around on the hundreds of screens. His expression was extremely serious, but if you consider that he was holding a bottle of wine in his hand and even had drool at the corners of his mouth, it would be hard to think that he was a very rigorous scientist. His white coat was very large, with several thin tubes dragging behind it, connected to a huge container in the center of the laboratory. The container looked like a brain, divided into two hemispheres, with densely packed green transparent vessels all over it. But if you really look closely at these vessels, you will be shocked to find that there are actually living brains inside. These guys underground are really powerful. With the current level of human technology, we are totally incapable of fighting them. I wonder how many of these guys are hiding underground. Hiccups? Anyway, we must find a way to deal with them. Weapons? Or mutants? These two directions must be developed at the same time. To improve weapons, we rely too much on science and technology, and human technology is developing too slowly. Cultivate mutants? The cost is too heavy. The doctor muttered to himself in the laboratory, occasionally coming up with an idea, but interrupting himself the next moment, like a quarrel. At this moment, the door of the laboratory was suddenly opened. A person walked in from outside, to be exact, a white Labrador. He did not walk on all fours, but walked in on his two hind legs like a human. The professor turned around with a bad look on his face. "Hey, who is here to bother me?" The white dog spread his hands innocently. Hello, Professor Da Vinci.
It's me, Brian.
I want to say, did you see the war just now? It was really horrible.
I'm a little worried now.
If such a war breaks out in our country, can we stop it? This professor is the chief scientist of Columbia's Natural Science Association, Da Vinci. After listening to Griffin's words, Da Vinci said with an unhappy face, according to the current situation, no human country is qualified to compete with the powerful underground civilization. Hiccup. Those powerful underground civilizations. There doesn't seem to be too much necessary connection between these underground civilizations, and there is a big gap in strength between each other. Maybe there is a civilization that is weaker than human beings. So, if we really encounter that kind of situation, we'd better pray that the enemy is not strong enough. Brian Griffin came overexcitedly, spread his two front paws, and said to Professor Da Vinci, "But we must find a way to protect our country. Professor Da Vinci, you should use your ability, for example, research more powerful weapons or drugs that make aliens more powerful." Professor Da Vinci took a big sip of wine and glanced at Griffin unhappily. It's easy to say, but if you have the ability, just do it. He pointed at Griffin's nose, and Griffin looked away in embarrassment. Well, I think these are the jobs of scientists like you.
Bah!
Professor Da Vinci spat fiercely on the ground, but he still quickly walked to the test bench and tapped on the screen with both hands. You dirty dog, you talk about morality, but you can only order others to do things. I'm not a guy like you, who only knows how to talk. In fact, I'm about to find the code of human genes. Griffin's eyes lit up like a light bulb, and he excitedly ran to the side of Professor Da Vinci, with all four legs on the ground, like a normal dog, almost shaking his tail like an electric fan. Hey, brother, I knew you could do it. Da Vinci didn't even look at him, but called up a large string of complex data, which formed a huge double helix structure on the screen. Those underground civilizations that have survived to this day seem to have mastered the technical means to create this sacred essence. So, theoretically, humans can also create it. It's just... He stared at the screen, his eyes gradually becoming serious. It seems that we discovered it a little too late. And the price to pay for doing this kind of thing would be extremely huge. On an island in Europe covered by a blizzard. The sky has darkened, which also means that the Huashu country on the other side of the planet has ushered in daylight. After several hours of fighting, the top leaders of all forces on this planet felt that it was as long as a week. Montesquieu, the president of the Tong organization, drank hand-ground coffee while appreciating the various battle reports passed by his subordinates. These included some precious satellite images and materials that only the official top leaders could see. Montesquieu sighed deeply. This world is developing as we expected. However, although it was expected, there would be a gap between the strength of humans and those mysterious beings. I just didn't expect it to be so huge. The king Maud Brat said respectfully, "Isn't our existence to change this unspeakable ending?" Montesquieu nodded. "In order to achieve our goal, there must be 4 knights who can stand on their own, have a firm will and strong strength, and lead us out of the darkness." His right hand knocked on the armrest of a chair. According to this investigation, the 2 people from Huashu country who are most likely to become the 4 horsemen of the dawn are Ho Tu and Hundun. Who do you think is more suitable to be a knight? Chapter 17:10 Restrictions are being lifted. When Blatt heard this question, he held his chin and pondered for a long time. Then he answered carefully, "It's hard to say at the moment. Both of them are very capable. But if I have to say, I think chaos is better." Montesquieu cast an inquiring look, wanting to know the origin of Blatt's conclusion. Blatt said, "According to our intelligence, Ho Tu has had contact with the ancient civilization under the land of Qinling Mountains. From this time, the appearance of the white-haired boy can show us something. This is not conducive to our subsequent actions. And in terms of ability, I also prefer chaos. His abilities are more free, and this person's style of doing things is cautious, with a hint of madness. This is exactly what we need." Brat smiled and said, "Maybe he himself doesn't even realize this." Montesquieu was silent for a while, and said, We still need to continue to observe this matter. After all, there is still a big contradiction between chaos and our four horsemen of the dawn. And the standard of the four horsemen of the dawn is not just strength. We have to continue to consider him as a person. Brat nodded. You are right. Montesquieu mentioned the four horsemen of the dawn, and couldn't help but think of that heroic man. He asked, what is King Arthur doing now? Huashu should have submitted a letter for help to Britannia and other countries. But the Knights of the Round Table did not take any action, which is not in line with their usual style. Brat said, they went to Atlantis a month ago. It is said that they found the ruins of the ancient palace and are about to enter the second layer of the deep sea. Montesquieu showed a look of emotion on his face. If they can gain something in the second layer of the sea, it is hard to imagine how strong they will be after returning. If this planet is a house, then humans are like cockroaches living in the house. Our lives are extremely fragile, but we have a resilience that all species fear. You can destroy us again and again, but we can always keep our seeds. The next time we appear, we will be even stronger. I hope that when that day comes soon, those outstanding beings among humans can stop the catastrophe that destroys the world.
While
Montesquieu was sighing, Brat turned on the smart device on his wrist, and a huge blue screen suddenly appeared in front of him. The world is not peaceful everywhere nowadays. Various places have either encountered unexplained incidents or started continuous wars in areas without regional hegemons. The battle in Northern Europe has been fierce, and a large number of aliens have been dispatched for some underground ruins. The Holy Roman Empire has shown signs of reconstruction. A war maniac has recently appeared in Prussia. He is a failed art student who has awakened powerful abilities. Even Gaul is ready to move. In the eastern part of the kingdom of Kermit, a black-robed alien, under the banner of reviving the only god, entangled religious believers to establish the Khotan Empire, intending to compete with it.
in
The central region of Asia, the Babylonian kingdom in the Mesopotamian basin, has also been mentioned again from the dust of history. Brat reported the changes in the world in an orderly manner. There is more than one core of the world. The turmoil near the Huashu kingdom has certainly attracted the attention of others, but in other corners of the world, there are also hegemons who exist as regional protagonists and have been born one after another, composing their own glory. Montesquieu's brows were sometimes furrowed and sometimes stretched. If possible, these people may become our knights in the future. In order to fight against the evil god's lackeys, we need to gather the power of more and more people in this world. Although this is destined to be a long and difficult process, Montesquieu emphasized. The next day, Zhang woke up from his sleep. He was lying on a soft big bed. The mattress under him was so soft that he could sink into it. It also had an electric massage function, which was very useful. He looked to the side. Zhou Kuer and Yang Xia were lying on his chest on the left and right, sleeping peacefully. He was too tired, so last night, the two of them massaged him very attentively until most of the night, so that every tense muscle in his body was relaxed. After a life-and-death battle, it was also a very comfortable thing for Zhang to get such relaxation. Otherwise, he would probably be sore all over for a week. Zhang did not get up, for fear of waking them up, but just lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. In his mind, he couldn't help but think about the reconstruction of Tianhai City. The Wulwan Empire destroyed Tianhai City, but now thinking about it, it is not such a bad thing. After all, before that, the infrastructure of Tianhai City had long been abandoned. Various abandoned buildings are uninhabited. Tianhai City does not need so much space, and there is just an opportunity to build a Tianhai City centered on the shelter. While Zhang Yu was thinking, Zhou Qi and Yang Xia seemed to feel something and slowly opened their eyes one after another. Seeing the man who was thinking seriously, both of them couldn't help laughing. As a woman, in the end times, it is such a lucky thing to be with a man who is capable of protecting them and taking good care of them. The longer they get along with Zhang Yi, the more they admire this man. It seems that the way men and women get along is always like this. Women, they will sink more and more in a relationship. The longer they spend together, the more dependent they will be on men. In the past, both of them thought Zhang Yi was too cold and even a little unkind. But after spending a long time together, they discovered his gentle side. He just kept all his tenderness for his own people, but was rude to outsiders. Zhang, what are you thinking about? Zhou asked with a playful smile. I'm thinking a lot of things, Zhang sighed. Although the invasion of the Wulwan Empire was repelled, we are temporarily safe. But I always feel that we will face more troubles in the future. Why is that? Yangxia and Zhou looked at Zhang in confusion. Zhang thought of the god of the sun in the nest of the gods who was killed by thunder, and the gatekeeper of the underworld and Bai Longzi who appeared this time, and frowned slightly. It seems that the restrictions are slowly being lifted. Although the gatekeeper of the underworld and Bai Longzi did not appear for a long time, the power they showed was enough to destroy the world. But the mysterious punishment did not appear.